The Xiaomi 13 Pro is technically India's first phone with the 50MP Sony IMX989 sensor, which is a 1-inch sensor, to launch in India. But this phone is not just flexing its primary camera. Apart from the primary, you also get a 50MP 3.2x telephoto camera and a 50MP ultrawide as well. In fact, even the selfie camera is a 32MP sensor. Evidently, the 13 Pro doesn't make any compromises on resolution, but it also gives you 3 different focal lengths to play with. You get a 14mm focal length, 23mm and 75mm. This made me wonder, how does the 13 Pro's camera compare against the far more expensive Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra? To be fair, considering the price of the 13 Pro, the real competition would be S23 or the S23 Plus. But it's always fun to pit the David against the Goliath. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing in this video. If you are here for the very first time, I'm Ershad. You're watching Trakin English.
Let the battle begin.
Starting with the detailed retention capabilities of both these phones, the 1-inch sensor inside the 13 Pro definitely captures more natural details as opposed to the S23 Ultra's slightly over-sharpened look. Take a look at the rear portion of the auto rickshaw or that RT residency board behind it, and you will be able to notice the difference. For what it is worth, Samsung also has a fairly large 1x1.3-inch sensor, but it adds a slight bit of over-sharpening for that added sharpness. Now on the 13 Pro, there's that Leica collaboration with which you do get Leica's lenses, but you also get Leica's color modes, which is basically Leica Authentic and Leica Vibrant. Now, if you ask me, I obviously prefer the authentic version over the vibrant one. However, when you compare the color science of the 13 Pro and the S23 Ultra, you will notice that Samsung shoots warm images. And the red color of the car has been nearly accurately reproduced by Xiaomi here. In fact, even the greens and the blues are close to accurate compared to Samsung. The next set of samples were taken at about 7:30 AM in the morning. And what I can tell you is that Xiaomi has tried to create a faithful representation of the scene as opposed to the Galaxy S23 Ultra, which tries to make it look more attractive. I can assure you the sky wasn't this orange. Having said that, I know that most people will actually gravitate towards the S23 Ultra shot because it does look good. Now, if you've come this far, to get the camera comparison evaluation just right, it takes a lot of effort. So give us your support by hitting that subscribe button. But you know what? On the 13 Pro, you can switch over to the Leica Vibrant mode to spruce up the colors and maybe match up to what Samsung has been capturing. Now, the previous shot was a mid dynamic range shot, but moving on to a more HDR shot, and this is a more complex scene that you see on your screen. Essentially, there is a tube light on the front and the sun is peeking out of the building, which you can see outside the window. Xiaomi's algorithm does a fabulous job of maintaining the dynamic range from both the bright sources of light, where Samsung struggles with the sun. Moreover, in the shadow region, you will notice a lot of noise in the S23 Ultra shot as opposed to the Xiaomi 13 Pro. Xiaomi's algorithm does a very good job of the noise correction, as you can tell. Clearly, when it comes to high dynamic range performance, I think 13 Pro's dynamic range is very wide. Now, moving on to pictures of people, both the phones get skin tones of people entirely wrong. Xiaomi tends to overexpose those parts of the face where the light hits it directly. And Samsung just makes it too warm, and you can notice that red tint as well. But if you're somebody who prefers a natural skin tone, it is better to stick with an iPhone 14 Pro or a Pixel 7 Pro. But for what it is worth, you get a really nice bokeh drop off on the Xiaomi 13 Pro because it mates that 1-inch sensor to a very large aperture of f/1.9, and considering it's a big sensor and a large aperture, you get really good bokeh drop off. Now, if you're shooting your friends and family against the light, Xiaomi sort of fails with the HDR algorithm. Where it does good job with HDR in landscape shots, it doesn't do a good job with people HDR shots. Firstly, it doesn't control the exposure on the rear as well as Samsung, and there's that issue where you see low contrast on the faces. Samsung gets the exposure of the whole scene just right. But Xiaomi makes a comeback with portraits. I really like the edge detection and the bokeh drop off as well. I think engaging the 75mm focal length or the 3.2x telephoto on the 13 Pro was the best idea because it creates the right size of the face. Samsung is equally good though, and it will boil down to mostly personal preferences, and I think this round is more of a tie. Now, finally coming to low light performance, and what I noticed is that the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra is much better at controlling bright sources of light compared to the 13 Pro. And in the second set of samples, you will notice that the S23 Ultra's picture is much brighter as well. This could also be because Xiaomi's algorithm doesn't really open the shutter for as long as Samsung does, and it takes a picture instantaneously. And to be honest, I really like that Xiaomi shows the night sky as the night sky and not like a very blue sky like Samsung has done out here. That said, Samsung does offer sharper textures, lower noise levels, and better control over bright sources of light as well. Which low light shot do you prefer? Let me know in the comment section below. Now switching to the really powerful ultra wide angle cameras on both these phones, a 50MP one on the 13 Pro and 12MP on the Samsung, both are very sharp at capturing images. But the natural color science on Xiaomi is more pleasing to the eye. Having said that, when you compare the ultra wide angle camera to the primary camera, Samsung's color science consistency is far better maintained, and even the contrast is well maintained, as opposed to Xiaomi, which doesn't do that good of a job. Moreover, the low light performance of Samsung's ultrawide is definitely better than Xiaomi's ultrawide. You know what? Of all the cameras in the 13 Pro's rear camera stack, the 3.2x telephoto one is the best. It's my favorite for sure. In daylight shots, what I notice is that it offers slightly sharper textures even compared to the 3x telephoto on the S23 Ultra. And even in low light, both are almost equally matched. And remember how I said the 3.2x telephoto punch-in and the 3x telephoto punch-in on the Samsung is great for portraits? So yeah, these telephoto cameras are probably the best that you can buy in the market right now, and Xiaomi does it for much cheaper. Although for longer zoom range, you will have to shell out more money for the S23 Ultra. Take a look at the 10x comparison samples, first in daylight and then in low light. Obviously Samsung wins, right? And the maximum zoom that Xiaomi can do is 70x. So I matched the 70x on the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, and when you look at the 70x samples, it's there for you to see. Samsung's zoom performance is absolutely stupendous, and I am a huge fan of telephoto. In fact, I would rather have a telephoto camera than an ultra wide. Are you like me, or do you prefer the ultra wide over the telephoto? Let me know in the comment section below. It'll be a fun conversation. But wait for it, here's another reason why the 3.2x telephoto on the Xiaomi 13 Pro is great, because it is very versatile and it can also shoot macro shots. And mind you, when you take the phone close to a subject and it triggers the macro mode, it actually uses the ultra wide angle camera. You have to switch on the super macro mode to use the 3.2x telephoto. See, the ultra wide angle's macro quality is not matched up to Samsung S23 Ultra's level, but then you can use the telephoto to zoom in further and focus even closer and get a much sharper shot. So overall, for macro performance, I think Xiaomi beats Samsung out here. Remember, Samsung had downgraded the resolution of the selfie camera from a 40MP one on the S22 Ultra to 12MP on the S23 Ultra, but the 12MP S23 Ultra selfie camera is superb. Take a look at the comparison shot. It exposes the face evenly and offers sharper, finer textures too. I do like the color science of the Xiaomi 13 Pro selfie, where it gets the color of the shirt right, and even the skin tones are close to natural, but then again S23 Ultra is more technically proficient. And for proof of that, you can take a look at the HDR selfies and the portrait selfies, and you can tell clearly that Samsung beats Xiaomi. And when the light goes down and you take low light selfies, Samsung beats Xiaomi again. Now 4K 60fps video recording is possible from the primary camera of both these phones, and if you don't get into the specifics and if you don't look at the minute details, at first glance both will look equally good. But you're here for a detailed comparison, and the S23 Ultra is slightly better than Xiaomi at shooting video, and I'll tell you why. Firstly, it shoots at higher bit rates. Secondly, the HDR performance is better. Finally, the sound recording is cleaner. The color temperature, the details, the stabilization, I'm working fast with it now. The color temperature, the details, the stabilization, I'm working fast with it now. In fact, the 13 Pro can now also shoot Dolby Vision videos like the iPhone can. There's no other Android phone that can shoot Dolby Vision videos, but the Dolby Vision videos top out at 4K 30fps resolution, and apart from that, there is no stabilization, at least from what I could tell, and the quality is not that great compared to the HDR10 Plus videos that the S23 Ultra can shoot. Surprisingly though, the low light video recording on the 13 Pro is very clean. In fact, it is better than the S23 Ultra at noise control, that I can tell you for sure. Although moving on to selfie video recording, it's clearly not Xiaomi's cup of tea, because you can only shoot at 1080p 30fps, which is the max resolution possible. Whereas on the S23 Ultra, you can shoot at 4K 60fps. So whether you're shooting in the day or in the night, S23 Ultra's selfie video recording capabilities are definitely better. You can also shoot 4K 60fps video using the ultra wide angle camera on both the phones. Samsung once again offers higher bit rates, therefore more details and better dynamic range in daylight. In low light, I don't even have to spell it out here which one is better, because you can see for yourself. Although just like the photo performance, in telephoto video recording, the Xiaomi 13 Pro's performance is really good, and it matches up to the S23 Ultra, if not better. But the S23 Ultra's advantage once again is that it takes the cake with longer zoom with 10x video recording capabilities. For its asking price, which along with discounts you can get the 13 Pro for about 70,000 rupees, it has a stellar set of cameras, I must tell you that. The detail retention capabilities of the primary camera, the fact that it has wide dynamic range as well, and the absolutely awesome 3.2x telephoto, which is so versatile, with which you can even shoot great portraits and macro as well. But for that extra money that you pay for Samsung, you get longer zoom range, far superior selfies, better low light performance in primary and ultra wide, and comparatively better, slightly better video recording chops. Despite that, I do like what Xiaomi has achieved with the 13 Pro. If there is a 13 Ultra in the works, then maybe it could actually beat the S23 Ultra, but that's a big if. What do you think of the camera performance? Do let me know in the comment section below. I'm working on more videos, so until the next time, keep tracking and stay safe.